It's time for the Week 11 waiver wire pickups that you need to get for your fantasy football team. I'm Alfredo Brown, joined as always by Dave Kluge, and welcome into the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show. Dave, this week, it's not the prettiest on waivers, but it's actually kind of simple, and I feel like we've got some pretty good clusters of players here.
Yeah, and I think the top guy, like we talked about him last week, we talked about him early in the season as well. Crazy to me that he's still available in a ton of leagues because like there is a plug and play wide receiver two with wide receiver one upside that is like just still out there in a ton of leagues right now.
Yeah, let's start there then. Let's start with tier number one. The way we do this every single week, we go through, Dave and I each give rankings to these players, to the waiver wire targets. We make a consensus ranking, put those into tiers, and then we break it down for you guys. So let's start with our number one player, Alec Pierce, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. Listen, I get it that there's going to be a lot of people bidding on Alec Pierce this week, Dave. How high are you willing to go on him, considering there is a buy for the Indianapolis Colts? Is this something where you think some people might just skip over him, or do you think everyone's kind of biting the cheese at this point?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to overlook him because of that buy because you know, a lot of people when they're placing their
You're
waivers, I think
desperate.
they just go to the available players and they look at projected points and ooh, this guy's projected points. I want to pick him up, and you can see that all the time. Like guillotine leagues, I don't want to go like way off on a tangent here. Like one of the best things I've noticed to do in guillotine leagues is just to put in low bids for the guys who are on buys because nobody else is even looking at them. I digress. But a lot of people will not be looking at Alec Pierce for that reason, but they should be. Like he has been awesome since he has come back from that concussion that he suffered in week 3. We're looking at a 5-game sample. Over that 5-game sample, he'd be on a 17-game pace for 1,400 yards, 132 targets, 65 receptions. He's still doing exactly what he's done throughout his entire career, averaging 20 plus yards per reception, but now he's doing it on a much higher volume. He is averaging 7.8 targets per game over the last 5 weeks. So this is a
Yeah.
guy who like is kind of Jameson Williams-esque, Xavier Worthy-esque, that type of player. And I don't think people are there because he doesn't have the draft capital. It took him a few years to get there, but that's exactly what he's doing now, except he's drawing more volume than Jameson Williams and Xavier Worthy. So like this is a guy right now. I don't know if he's going to completely take over Michael Pittman as the team's wide receiver one, but we can't ignore what he's been doing. Like he is still a very versatile player. Or I'm not still a versatile player. He's always been the deep threat, but now he's a more
Right.
versatile player, playing inside, not just playing on the boundary anymore. I mean, we're witnessing the breakout right here, and I think a lot of people are hesitant to buy in because of what we saw through the first couple of years. But he's here,
Yeah, that's the thing, is that he's not just this one trick pony anymore. I mean, he's still good at that one trick. Like he's
right?
a good deep ball receiver, but now he's able to do other things. And since week 7, he's been the wide receiver 12 in fantasy football, wide receiver 20 in points per game. He is a starting player and he was doing that too, like Dave, without just crazy touchdown variants. It's not like we were saying, oh, well, you can look at 2 receptions for a touchdown. That was it. No, he was just getting target volume. He finally gets a touchdown this past week. Over the last 4 games, 17 catches, 366 yards. It's just, he's been consistent. He has been productive. Next 2 games are some favorable matchups, especially for a deep ball receiver. Kansas City Chiefs, Houston Texans. There's some big play upside there for him. So yeah, Dave, also, by the way, can we just leading the league in yards per reception?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
come on, man. Like it's all the signs are there. We're seeing this Colts offense. I know it's been a little bit more of a struggle over the last 2 weeks in the passing game, but we have seen enough things going in favor of Alec Pierce here. Dave, I know you always hate when I ask this question, but I'm going to keep asking it every week, mostly because you hate it, but also because I think it's helpful for people. If you're looking at a percentage fab bid for someone like Alec Pierce, give me a range here. Like, what are the scenarios that work for you? I know. You hate numbers. You
Same
hate
answer I always do.
that.
It depends. It depends. I mean,
This
first of
it's
all, what I'll
always
say, like
helpful when you say it depends. Always extremely helpful.
what I will say is like if you're in a league that doesn't have fab, just like waiver priority, and you've been holding that number one pick in waiver priority, I think this is one worth spending it. And this is one like even if I'm not dying for a wide receiver, like if I've got good wide receivers and I feel good, I'm okay making like a big fab bid on Alec Pierce just to play defense here because like this isn't a guy that I want to have to face against in the fantasy playoffs. So again, like very dependent on league settings. Like in your really shallow leagues, I might go like 30-40%. In those really
Okay,
deep leagues
there we
though,
go.
like if you're in a league where you got 10 plus bench spots and for whatever reason Alec Pierce is still available, I'm going 100% here. Like that's a guy that like in deep leagues that I will spend
Hundred
a lot
percent.
for. I'm talking like if you're in a deep league where you've got 10 plus bench spots, yeah, absolutely. And he probably isn't available in those, but maybe. The last thing I want to say too is like, we're not looking at a minuscule sample size here. 5 weeks since he's come back from a concussion. And typically when you're looking at those like 4 or 5 game samples, the guys who are atop the leaderboards are the guys who are scoring touchdowns, right? That makes sense. Alec Pierce has scored 1 touchdown over the last 5 weeks, and he is the wide receiver 13 in fantasy. So, like, this isn't fluky. Like, he's getting the targets, he's producing, he's efficient. And if we could just bet on positive regression to fall in his favor, which it should, because this guy's been a touchdown machine his entire career, I could see this guy just exploding over the second half of the season.
All right, let's go down to the second tier. By the way, Alec Pierce available in 53% of leagues. So good chance he's probably not available in yours, but we got to talk about him. Let's go down to the second tier here, Dave, where, well, you and I have some dissension here over the next, 3 or 4 players. I think I'm single-handedly pushing Luther Burden into this tier. So in tier 2, Luther Burden and Cade Otton are the players we have here. So technically at the number 2 player, Luther Burden, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. Dave, for me, it's one, we're already getting Ben Johnson saying Luther Burden needs more work. He has earned more work. DJ Moore's got the shoulder injury from last week. And then just everything we've seen, like, I think at some point you can't just keep looking at a guy and say, man, he's doing so well. I wish he could just get more playing time. It does seem like that is finally happening here. No rookie wide receiver has had a higher yards per route run than Luther Burden. So we know that the big plays are going to be there. He's actually 4th in the NFL in yards per route run. So big plays are just a part of his DNA now at this point. A 3rd highest target per route run. So he's getting open, or they're just being very particular of when they're using him. They're making a concerted effort to get him the ball when he's on the field. He's a team leader in passing rating when he is getting targeted. Everything here points towards not only Luther Burden being a very good player, but being a guy who can unlock this offense. I would say the same thing for Colston Loveland. He's just not available in enough fantasy leagues for us to talk about him. But Dave, Ben Johnson saying that Luther Burden deserves a bigger role. Are we going to get a bigger role?
I wish, I hope, but there are just so many mouths to feed in this offense, and that's why I'm kind of pumping the brakes on everybody in Chicago. I think what we expected in the preseason was that Luther Burden was going to take over Olamide Zaccheaus' role, but we're seeing him play a very different role. Like, he isn't getting those slot snaps. Over 60% of his snaps this year have come out wide. It's actually DJ Moore that he's competing with. So if DJ Moore does miss some time with the shoulder injury, yeah, then I'm looking at Luther Burden as a guy that I'm like fired up to put into my week 11 lineups. But I think as long as DJ Moore is out there, as long as Roma Dunze is out there, it really does limit his path to a big workload. Very talented player. I mean, we've seen it. He is doing things that I don't think anybody else in this offense can do, but it is very gimmicky. Like, and I feel like, we could flash back Ben Johnson. This feels very similar to Jameson Williams. Like, we're for Jameson Williams' first couple of years in the league. Sure, some of that was ACL and the suspension, but like, we never saw him with a full allotment of snaps. When he would come on the field, he was the primary target, and he was schemed up touches to get the ball in his hand where they can lean on his explosiveness. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing from Luther Burden right now. I just don't see any sort of path where he can be an 80% snap share player in this offense without injuries ahead of him.
I mean, maybe he doesn't have to be an 80% snap share player, but a guy that's going out there for 60% of the snaps, 65, 70% of the snaps. I mean, what we're seeing here is, one, I don't even think he's gimmicky anymore. He's actually winning on outside routes,
Right.
running big boy NFL routes. He's not doing all the silly underneath stuff and the catches behind the line of scrimmage. At some point, man, too, like, I do just want to get ahead of things, right? Like, the Olamide Zaccheaus thing has, I don't even want to say it's been fun. Like, it's just been there.
Yeah.
Burton's got 90%. So this is a fun stat from Fantasy Points, our friends over there. Luther Burden has 90% of Olamide Zaccheaus' receiving yards on just 40% as many routes and 38% as many targets. Yeah, let's just inject some life into the offense. Things are going well for the Bears. They're winning games. Caleb Williams is, as we jokingly said yesterday, looking clutch. There's just things that are happening for the Bears. Why not? Like, I don't get the whole thing with Olamide Zaccheaus being in here.
Yeah, and I think it's just like he's good at those choice routes, and that's really it. But we also see like Roma Dunze moves to the slot a little bit. We haven't really seen a lot of that slot alignment for Luther Burden. I think it's just around 30% that we've seen so far. And that's the thing. We're seeing Rome in the slot. We're seeing DJ Moore in the slot. We're seeing Kmet and Colson Loveland in the slot. So I think that they're like I said this when they drafted Luther Burden. I think that this is more of like a, hey, like years down the road, not years, like it could be as soon as next year, but it's just there's so many good pass catchers here. And like we didn't even mention DeAndre Swift catching balls out of the backfield as well. I want to get there with Burden, but I kind of jokingly said this in the preseason, for everybody to hit their high end range of outcomes in Chicago, you need Caleb Williams to pass for 6,000 yards, and that's not going to happen. So I think like Rome is the guy that you feel really good about. DJ Moore,
Do
Luther
you?
Burden.
Because
I
like
mean,
I felt like over the last couple weeks we haven't felt great about him.
we got
I,
the squeaky wheel game. Thanks James Adunze. We finally got to the targets and the touchdown last week. Um, I think Rome is the guy that like you feel good firing up as like a high end wide receiver too. But I think, and of course, Loveland being a tight end, you can put him in as kind of a back end tight end one. But I think Burden, DJ Moore, Zacchaeus, Loveland, those guys all just kind of fall into like very similar flex consideration for me.
So let me read the quote here from Ben Johnson. He said, This is on Luther Burden. You've slowly seen his rep count go up. He's a guy who is starting to get more targets. It's a trust level between the coaches and the player. It's a trust level between the quarterback and the receiver. It continues to ascend. He's been very productive when he's about to get the ball in his hands. And there's a strong argument that we should get it to him more. So listen, I'm hoping that turns into something. Like this is, to me, this is the perfect thing where opportunity meets talent, right? And I would rather be ahead of that and have a guy that could be potentially winning me fantasy weeks here with big play upside in an offense that looks like it is on the ascent in the right direction, especially if there is potentially no DJ Moore. We got to keep track of that injury.
And here's what I will say: if we want to look at like the history of receivers, rookie receivers in Ben Johnson's offense, we can look back to Amon St. Brown. And I remember through the first, you know, 2/3 of that season, we were saying the same thing. Like this guy, when he's targeted, he's awesome, but he just isn't really getting the opportunities. And then
Right.
TJ Hawkinson got hurt, DeAndre Swift got hurt, and then Amon St. Brown was wide receiver one over the final 6 weeks of the season. So that is like if DJ Moore goes down, if Roma Dunze goes down, then we could be looking at a bigger role for Burden. But I'm kind of looking at him right now as kind of like a handcuff wide receiver, for lack of a better term.
You know what? And he's available in 85% of leagues, Dave. And one thing that I wanted to do is we always talk about these percentages from Sleeper, right? And even just looking around, a lot of waiver wire articles and stuff don't really have Luther Burden all that high. And I kind of like this because I feel like we're going against, or at least I am going against the grade. You have him pretty high too, though. You have him as your fourth highest player on this week. In the Sleeper app, Luther Burden's not even trending as one of the top 30 players being added. Like there's just there hasn't been any movement on Luther Burden, not as much excitement. And I don't know. Maybe we can be thought leaders in this, Dave. Just
Maybe.
throwing that out there. All right. Other guy in this tier, Cade Otton, tight end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's available in 62% of leagues. Dave, this has been an interesting one because since week 5, he's the tight end 11 in PPR points per game without a single touchdown. Cade Otton has actually just been a volume guy again. We saw this happen last year when Chris Godwin wasn't in. We saw this happen almost very similar, almost identically. The target volume's been there, 12 targets this last game, averaging over 6 targets per game in the previous 4 weeks. Some good matchups coming up, some shootout matchups potentially, Buffalo and the Los Angeles Rams. So you and I both have Cade Otton pretty high for a position that there's not a lot of stability.
Yeah, I mean the big change that happened last week and why I am so excited about Cade Otton, he was a huge riser in my rest of season rankings article as well. He kind of took the slot role from Sterling Shepard. Like we love Sterling Shepard. He's a dog. He plays with this physicality. Like I've been a fan of Sterling Shepard for a long, long time. But I'm gonna call it like it is. He's an older guy that doesn't really have that juice anymore. That made him such a fun player in his younger days. He still plays with some tenacity that they want to keep on the field, but I would much prefer to have my 6'6", 280-pound tight end playing out of the slot who can just rumble through the defense than Sterling Shepard, who's going to catch the ball and fall over. And I think they realized that last week. I mean, we saw a huge uptick where in week 8, we only saw 9 routes run out of the slot for Cade Otton, and that jumped to 25 routes last week. And that's exactly what we saw last year as well. When Chris Godwin was out, Cade Otton was that slot receiver getting, sounds crazy, but like kind of getting Chris Godwin type treatment. And that's what he's getting now as well. So yeah, Cade Otton, a huge riser for me. And looking at my week 11 rankings, like he's probably going to be inside my top 8. I think that he's just one of those guys that you are plugging in and you can expect 8 to 12 targets every single game.
Yeah, it's gonna be the thing. It's gonna be hard to not have him as a not even fringe, just a legit starting tight end one every single week right now until further notice.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there was that stretch last year, and he was scoring touchdowns last year, which really made it fun, but he was the top scoring tight end for, like, a month last year while Chris
Mm-hmm.
Godwin was out, and I don't know if you've heard, but there's no timetable for Chris Godwin's return. Like, I'm skeptical that he comes back
Bucky
this year.
Irving too. It's getting weird.
Mike
Like
Evans,
there's
yeah, like, there's nobody there. And Cade Otton, like, he's the familiar face that is playing the slot role right now. Yeah, this is being overlooked by a lot of fantasy analysts and managers right now, but like Cade Otton is a plug and play tight end one.
By the way, we didn't mention his name because he's rostered in too many leagues. But Tez Johnson, if he's available, please go out and get him. I think he would be up in that. He'd probably be the number 2 player that we're talking about here today, behind Alec Pierce. Cade Otton, Dave, he's been doing this sort of sneakily over the last 5 weeks, where he's just been this fringe tight end one, and now, I mean, I don't want to overreact to this big game, but you come out of the bye, seems to be a little bit of a intentionality of how they're using Cade Otton, you know?
And that's it.
Um,
Yeah, before the bye, over 50% of his over 50% of his snaps were in line, which
mhm.
we don't want that. We don't want a tight end playing a tight end. We want a tight end who's a glorified slot receiver, and that's what Cade Otton's doing now.
All right, let's go to the next tier number 3. And honestly, I'm the one that's kind of pulling this player down. Tyler Algier. I think in a lot of articles, he's going to be a number 1 or number 2 waiver wire pickup to make this week. Dave, he's still a handcuff for me, and I guess maybe it's just about how you value handcuffs. I feel like I've had my handcuffs, and I've just held on to them, and I think it's just going to depend on where you're at in fantasy. If you know you're making the playoffs, stash some handcuffs. If you need the wins now, I don't see Tyler Algier as the guy that's getting you the wins here. I get it. He got 11 carries this past week, 57 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had just had 12 touches over the last 3 weeks combined before that. I don't want to be the guy that's chasing touchdowns too much. So for me, this is strictly handcuff territory if I'm already a team that I know I'm making the fantasy playoffs.
So I think what you said is like you drafted your handcuffs and you've got your handcuffs. I think that's probably just like the biggest difference in why I'm so aggressively going after Tyler Algier. I am constantly like just churning those handcuffs at the bottom of my roster, just trying to get every little edge that I can. Because like in the preseason, yeah, I drafted a lot of Ray Davis. I drafted a lot of Taj Brooks. Those guys
Well, I'm
have
not
proven
saying you're
probably
holding on to those guys who just like aren't playing
right.
at all.
But I'm constantly just trying to like get ahead where I can, and I'm not drafting Tyler Algier expecting him to score 2 touchdowns every single week. I'm drafting him knowing that if Bijan Robinson goes down, I'm getting a potential RB1 here. So I think that's why I want Tyler Algier. And like he wasn't even a big mover for me because I've already had a pretty aggressive stance on him. I've got him inside my top 40 running backs, but I kind of look at like Tyler Algier, but Blake Corum, Baishal Tootin as kind of like the creme de la creme of handcuffs. Like those are the guys that will win you your season if the guy ahead of them goes down. And of course, we've already seen Rashad White do it. We've seen Kamani Vidal and some of the other guys. But when I look at Algier, I just prefer him so much to the so here. Like if you're in a league where you are holding on to Isaiah Davis, Devin Singletary, Kenneth Gainwell, Brian Robinson Jr., Jordan Mason, Jeremy McNichols, any of those guys, those are the guys that I would happily just move on from and get Algier instead, who I think is a very big upgrade at a handcuff.
See, that's interesting to me because Brian Robinson Jr., I think, is in the exact same league. I mean, it's the San Francisco 49ers offense. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, that's a big time handcuff. Like what
I've got
separates
him
them?
a few spots below. We've
Okay.
seen Tyler Algier rush for 1,000 yards in this offense, and Brian Robinson. I got to say he has looked good in limited opportunities over the last few weeks. But I just this just for me comes down to talent eval. I just think that Tyler Algier is a better running back than Brian Robinson.
I mean, I'm just going to say what I think is going to end up happening is a lot of people are going to go and spend on Tyler Algier. He doesn't get you 2 touchdowns this upcoming week. Maybe he does. Congrats. That'd be great. And he's just going to get dropped again by a bunch of people because he shouldn't be this available anyways, considering his value as a handcuff. Like he should not be available in 64% of leagues. I think that just shows the impatience that fantasy managers have and
Mhm.
what is likely going to happen again. Someone's going to run out there, spend money, and say, okay, cool, I've got this new RB2 that all the articles are telling me to go get because he's got the touchdown upside. He doesn't get the touchdown, and he's going to be dropped again. Like
And
that's
and I when I'm playing fantasy, I'm looking at like half of my bench as just like not even guys that I'm thinking about starting on a weekly basis. Like it's just
Mhm.
like my cryo chamber of handcuffed running backs that are just sitting at the bottom of my bench, like
Yeah.
out of sight, out of mind. I don't even
I'm
want to
looking at mine
technically
right now. It's
start these
Blake
guys.
Corum and Ollie Gordon and, I mean, okay, I probably gotta drop Jaden Blue, man. I just, outed myself here on the podcast.
But yeah, I mean the same thing. Like when I'm looking at I'll pull up my home league right now and take a look at the bench. This is what most of my benches look like: Chris Rodriguez, Isaiah Davis, Tyler Algier, and well, Travion Henderson, who's now in the starting lineup, and Tajay
Yep,
Spears. Like this is what I
yep.
want, are these guys that just have that upside. Like Travion Henderson, I'd just been stashing him on my bench for the first 8 weeks, unable to start him, and now we finally see like, okay, Ramondre Stevenson's out. Now we've got a plug and play RB2. Tyler Algier, you're going to stash him. You're not ever going to feel comfortable. Like if you really need to during buys, you might put him in the lineup. Maybe he gets 2 touchdowns. Maybe he gets 5 yards. But really what you're hoping for is that if Bijan Robinson misses time, then you've got a plug and play guy.
All right, the other guy in this tier is Christian Watson, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, Dave. Boy, what a time to talk about this. Christian Watson is the
Dude.
embarrassing ball off the helmet play, which,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you saw, but he's already come out and I can't remember which. I think it
Said
was
he should have
Sleeper.
caught it.
Yeah, I think it was Sleeper. It was just like, should he have caught this? And he just quote tweeted it with yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Like he's taking responsibility for it.
Been hanging out
Boy.
with Bo Melton a little bit too much and starting to play some D-back.
Yeah. I mean, this has just been the same problem for the Packers wide receivers for years. Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. And they'll each time, like, one of them is going to get a big play, one of them will be the target leader, and then one of them is going to end up with like 2 or 3 embarrassing drops. But Christian Watson still has this just tremendous big play upside. He's got multi-touchdown upside. That's why I have him a little bit higher in the rankings here. It's not huge, but 4 targets in each of the last 3 games. The snap count is what's growing here. It's 56 to 66% to 82%. We've got no Tucker Kraft. We've got no Jaden Reed. We now have this chest injury to Romeo Doubs. We got to see how that's going to play out throughout the rest of the week. And some decent wide receiver matchups coming up here for the Packers. The New York Giants, Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears. Week 17, they've got the Baltimore Ravens. So if Christian Watson is going to be a top 2 wide receiver or a top 2 target earner on this Packers offense, I think he's absolutely worth a roster spot.
Yeah, definitely. And he's going to be in that weekly flex discussion every single week. I don't know who the heck Jordan Love is. Like sometimes he looks like a top 3 quarterback in the league. Sometimes he looks like he should still be at Utah State. Like I think I probably suffered the same injury as Romeo Doubs yesterday. It was just like acid reflux from like the disgust of having to watch Jordan
Okay.
Love out there yesterday. Like I don't know, dude, he looks so bad sometimes. And like I was a Jordan Love guy this preseason. Like I liked what we saw last year, but the inconsistencies are just wild. Like sometimes he comes out here and looks amazing, and then we has these games like yesterday. Like I think he's kind of in that, like, I don't know, maybe like the Trevor Lawrence type of tier where it's like the tools are there, the inconsistencies probably outweigh the tools though.
Yeah. I hate and love these conversations about quarterbacks because I feel like almost every single quarterback has these kind of games where you're just like, is he
Yeah,
even good at
just off from
football?
Josh Allen last week,
Yeah.
right?
Like, you have there's always gonna be that one person that's been sitting around like, see, I told you Josh Allen's not good. He's just crazy. He's erratic. So, yeah, man, there's just the inconsistencies here. I
That's what I'm
think
saying.
for
I don't know who Jordan Love is. I wish
right,
I had
right.
a take. He's just
I think there's only like a handful of quarterbacks in the league that are actually just extremely good that you can count on week in and week out. Like the rest of them are all, it's just going to be up and down. It's going to be game plan, game script, and opponent dependent. And that's kind of what Jordan Love is. But with all that aside, I want a starting wide receiver in an offense that can be good
right.
and a receiver that can be good. So that's why I'm putting him here. The difference between us, I've got him at number 3 priority ad. You've got him at number 5. So I think this tier has the biggest amount of dissension for us, Dave. Why don't we go down to the next one here, where it's basically it's 3. We don't want to call them backup running backs, but 3 running backs with some contingent upside here, and some roles that are growing for them, or at least seem to be somewhat valuable for fantasy right now. So let's go down to this tier. This is tier number 4, right? Yep, it is. It's tier number 4. We've got Chris Rodriguez, running back for the Washington Commanders, Devin Singletary, running back for the New York Giants, and Sean Tucker, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dave, If you had to pick one out of these three players, who are you going with?
Uh,
You got them ranked all back to back to back.
I know. Probably Devin Singletary if you're looking for like immediate production, just because he is splitting the backfield with Tyrone Tracy right now. But am I crazy for thinking Chris Rodriguez has the highest ceiling of the bunch? I mean,
Man,
Corey Krusky-Merritt got benched last week, and like I think that gets lost. I see a lot of people saying the snap counts and the touch usage and that sort of stuff. Corey Krusky-Merritt was watching from the bench until Chris Rodriguez left that game with a shoulder injury,
I
and we
was
don't
going to
know if
say.
he's going to miss any time. But like Corey Krusky-Merritt got benched, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, man. It's like the snap counts are going to be deceiving. The numbers are going to look like Bill went out there and still had a big role, but it wasn't until Chris Rodriguez had to leave with a shoulder injury at the beginning of the second half. I'm with you. I'm with you on Chris Rodriguez. I've got him ranked the highest out of these three running
Yeah,
backs.
I probably should have switched him and Devin Singletary. I said Devin Singletary because I have to be true with the rankings that I submitted yesterday. But
Sure.
like, if I'm setting waiver claims, I think I would prefer Chris Rodriguez ahead of. I'll make that switch on the show sheet. I'd prefer Chris Rodriguez ahead of Devin Singletary.
Rodriguez, man, top 36 running back in three of his last four games. That's a guy that you can actually flex each week. And he's had a touchdown in each of those three games. So, like, I know we said we don't want to chase touchdowns, but also when you get a pattern of it and a guy who's getting usage, there's a slight difference, right? Like, you can just turn the dial a little bit in a certain direction here with the way you value these running backs. If he's good from the shoulder injury, right? Like, we have to monitor that. But if he's good, Miami next week could be a
Hmm.
big running game for him. And then the Commanders have the easiest fantasy playoff schedule for a running back. So if Chris Rodriguez is taking over this backfield role, or at least the majority of it, and he's got the touchdown upside that we see. The whole big thing, Dave, you talked about it multiple times, is him being named captain last week. Cliff Kingsbury really likes him. He mentioned that he doesn't leave yards on the field, and that's something we've seen with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt a lot. He tries to bounce everything. He's trying to make guys miss when they're not even there. And Chris Rodriguez is just going to say, you know what, maybe I'm going to get 3 yards, and it's not going to be pretty, but I'm going to get you 3 yards. And that's something that NFL coaches love. So I'm
We've got another Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet situation,
Yeah.
don't we? Just in Washington now. It's very, very similar.
Yeah.
And I want to
So
point this out. Chris
sure.
Wecht, who does really good work over at Fantasy Points, he called this out prior to the Chris Rodriguez injury. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 17% of the carries and 8% of the team's routes. I mean, like, and again, we talk about like if you look at the full game and you look at the box score, it's deceiving. But prior to that injury, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was a nothing. Like I pushed him all the way down to wide receiver or running back 49 in my rest of season rankings. Like he is, we talked about him as a sabotage drop. I don't even know if he's a sabotage drop because I don't know if anybody's going to pick him up at this point. But like I don't even think it's worth rostering Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt at this point.
We talked about him last week. There's a sabotage drop, like you said. It's You're right. I don't think it's a sabotage drop anymore. I think it's just a drop.
Just a drop.
Just a sad drop at this point. That's all it is. We can touch like very quickly here on Devin Singletary and Sean Tucker. We've talked about Singletary the last few weeks. The role is there. We'll see what ends up happening here with Mike Kafka now calling plays. He's been the offensive coordinator for the Giants for the last 4 years. So it's not like there's going to be some new tendency that hasn't been there. He's been calling plays for the Giants this year. Daboll called plays last year. So I still think there's a bit of a role there for Singletary. And then Tucker's just been more efficient than Rachaad White at this point. So 21 carries, 97 yards over the last 2 weeks here there for Sean Tucker. We still, like we said, we still have no idea what's going on with Bucky Irving. And the Bucks also have a very easy running back schedule for fantasy purposes throughout the fantasy playoffs. So, Dave, let's put them in order then. Let's put them in order. I think you and I have the same order for these guys. It's Rodriguez, Singletary, Tucker. Is that how we're going to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Easy peasy. All right, let's go down to the final tier here, where we've got three players. I think one is a very clear winner amongst these three players, the most upside. But let's talk about them each. Kyle Williams, Luke Musgrave, and Dontavian Wicks. Dave, the guy that I think is the clear winner with the most upside here, which is crazy to say off of just one reception, but it's Kyle Williams. I know it's just one big play. It's a 72-yard touchdown. But, man, even on the plays where he's not getting the ball targeted to him, he's open a lot. He's open quite a bit. This is a guy we really liked coming out of Washington State. He was pretty high in the Football Guys rookie guide coming out of the NFL draft, even prior to the NFL draft. I think I really like the upside of Kyle Williams being a field stretcher with a quarterback like Drake May. I don't really think outside of, am I missing someone on the team outside of Williams? I don't know that the Patriots have a true field stretcher. Diggs
Mac
isn't that
Hollins,
guy
baby.
anymore. Mr. Fork Hands?
I mean, led the team in routes run last week at over 100 yards. Like it's gross, but Mac Hollins
Yeah,
has been much more involved than I think any of us want him to
he's
be.
inevitable.
Yeah, Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte, they can kind of stretch the field too, but nobody's got juice like Kyle Williams does on this team. Like he is so fast.
I think Kyle Williams he fills in nicely for what Kayshon Boutte was doing.
Mhm.
And while Booty is out, I think Kyle Williams gets to go in and have that nice opportunity to do this. And he's not just a deep threat either, right? Like he
Right.
didn't actually catch a deep ball. He caught and ran. He's a highly athletic player who is very good at getting open. I think he can actually do a lot of the same things that Stephon Diggs does. Kyle Williams is really good getting off the line of scrimmage, getting off of press coverage. He's really good at creating separation early in his routes. So I think there is a bit more diversity than just being some sort of field stretcher, but the athleticism there is just undeniable for him. I think if there was more time, he could develop into probably the best weapon on the field for the Patriots and Drake May. But I still have him as a nice speculative ad, as a stash. Going over the next 3 weeks, Jets, Bengals, Giants. If there was a time for him to start getting some more snaps and make some big plays, 3 really easy matchups for him.
Yeah, and I think like Stephon Diggs is a pretty good comp for Kyle Williams. And I remember like immediately making that connection because they signed Stephon Diggs early in the offseason, that big contract, and then they drafted Kyle Williams. And I was like, oh, so they've got this plan in place where Kyle Williams is going to be Stephon Diggs 3 years from now. Like it just makes too much sense. They can do so many of the same things. And Kyle Williams, like he's not a raw athlete either. Like he is already a very polished, crisp route runner. Like we
Mhm.
saw him just making plays consistently in
The
college.
hands,
Like
the hands is where he struggles sometimes, where he gets inconsistent.
yeah, but he's a guy that, I think we can again, like there's a lot of mouths to feed here, right? Like Hunter Henry's going to be
Sure.
involved. When Kayshon Boutte comes back, he's going to be involved. Stephon Diggs obviously is there. Demario Douglas is starting to get hot over the second half of the season. So this is very similar to the Luther Burden conversation. Like I don't know where he can find a role, but in your deep leagues, I think he's worth a pickup in a stash.
That's just kind of where I'm at right now with some of these players. Like I think it's interesting. We're both saying the same thing, but about different styles of players. I know you're saying make sure you have as many of these insurance handcuffs, which I also agree with, and I think you agree with me as well. It's just take some swings on these really good rookies, these talented players that haven't quite seen their roles grow yet, because I'd rather be ahead. I'd rather be 1 or 2 weeks early on these guys than trying to be the one who's paying a premium for them at the last second, or the breakout already happens and he's just not on my roster, right? Like
Right.
I'd rather stash Kyle Williams now while not many people care. And in 2 or 3 weeks, we're talking about, man, he's been really good over the last 3 weeks, been catching touchdowns and making plays. And here he is for the fantasy playoffs. Make sure you stash your rookies every single week. That I just want to be ahead on this one. The other two guys that we have in this tier are Packers players: Luke Musgrave, Dontavian Wicks. Let's say you have to pick one. And I know
Musgrave.
it's different. Yeah, I
Not
was
even
going to say,
close. Not
I
even
know
close.
it's difficult because there's a premium position here in tight end, but I think I'm with you. Just it's Musgrave. That's where
Yeah.
I'd rather go.
I mean, no Matthew Golden in this game. Romeo Dubs left early. I think that's why we saw some of the Dontavian Wicks involvement. But how many times do we have to step into this trap? Like it's Dontavian
At
Wicks. We
least
know
one more
who he
time,
is.
baby.
Yeah, it's like, we see it all the time. Like he has these big games and then everyone like rushes to the waiver wire, picks up Dontavian Wicks, keeps him stashed for 6 weeks, and then inevitably drops him. I'll let somebody else do that. I'm not going to. Luke Musgrave was second on the team in routes run. Only had 3 targets. Wasn't very efficient with those 3 targets, but the usage was very intentional. Like he ran just as many routes as everybody besides Christian Watson. So Musgrave, I think he's one of those guys that is probably, was picked up in a lot of deep leagues after last week. Is probably going to get dropped in a lot of leagues after this week. And I think he's one of those guys that like I will happily pick up if I missed out on him last week.
Well, Dave, there you have it. We went through the week 11 waiver wire here. Uh, we're getting closer, man. We're getting closer to the fantasy playoffs. We are going to be back tomorrow.
Four weeks left in the
I
fantasy
know.
regular season. Like It somehow feels like the season just started and is almost over at the same time. But yeah, I was like writing
Mhm.
about it yesterday. I'm like, we got 4 more weeks and then the playoffs are here, and then 3 more weeks and it's over. Like less than 2 months of the season left. Like it is flying by.
Guys, this is the time. This is crunch time for you, man. You have to win to get in. And I know that's the old cliche, but like this is when you should be paying more attention to your fantasy teams, the players that are available, to everything that's going out there on the field, because every single week is going to matter from here on out. And so what we're going to be doing is not just giving you our recaps and our waiver wire transactions and the starts and sleepers and all that, but tomorrow we're going to be back with the players to stash so that when you do make the fantasy playoffs, you have a good set of players that are there to win you your fantasy championship. That way, we're looking ahead. Like we've been saying throughout this episode, you don't want to be late on these players. So, players that you can stash. This is also a fantasy trade deadline for a lot of leagues as well. So, this might be the time to start making some moves as well, Dave.
Yeah, and I think that, I wrote about this a little bit in my article that published this morning, but, like, this is the time of year where I think that where you're at in the standings really dictates the moves that you
Yep.
wanna make. Like, if you've already locked up a playoff spot, we talked about going after those handcuff running backs, but also go after the Ricky Pearsalls, the Omarion Hamptons, the
Yep.
guys who are injured right now that you don't need to rely on that could end up being that late season hammer to kind of push you through the fantasy playoffs. And if you're in a losing record right now, like, you're scratching and clawing trying to get into the playoffs, like, I'm not very high on Kamani Vidal in rest of season rankings. I'm not very high on Rashad White or Sean Tucker, but those are guys that can give you that immediate production that you need over the next couple of weeks to get in. So it's really hard to just say like these are flat rankings this week and you should trade X player for Y player. So much of it has to do with your situation in your leagues. But if you're watching the show, going into week 11, you're still plugged into fantasy football content. You probably know what you're talking about. You probably know what you're doing, and you know which players you should be
You
targeting.
don't even need us
Um,
at this point.
yeah,
I'm
but
just kidding.
you know,
You do. Come
I
back.
say, well, I got you. If you're listening right now, 40 minutes into the show, waiver wire late in the season, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We
Yeah.
say it all the time, but it's like the best way to help us grow. So let us know that you stuck through to the end of the show. Let us know what your record is right now, how you're doing in your league, and 1 to 5 stars. Let us know what you think about the show as well. It would mean a ton to both of us.
I want to correct you. Not 1 to 5 stars, just 5 stars. Please
Yeah,
don't give a
I got
1 star
you.
review.
Give me
That's
give me
rude.
1 star if you need to.
No.
No,
Nope.
5 star,
Nope.
much preferred, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let us know in the comments. Thanks.
5 stars. I've been listening to the show all season and I'm 0-10.
There we go. All right, y'all. We're going to be back again tomorrow. Like I mentioned, as always, I want to thank everybody for watching or listening all the way through. For myself, for Dave. We'll see you next time. Adios.